Hello and welcome to probably my last tips and tricks video for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now, when I had made my first video, I had kind of made it in a rush, kind of saying like, oh, this is just 5 things you need in the beginning. But this video will cover pretty much every aspect of the game. I think I have around 30 facts, and who knows, I might be able to ad-lib some more along the way. So before wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So the first tip I want to talk about for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is to make sure you explore and kind of take part in the side quests, as they're the best way to boost your reputation, which is honestly one of the most important things. It's really how people look at you, and to make a good amount of Groschen in the process. Now, this isn't limited to simply, I will reiterate on it more in a moment, but really in the beginning, the main emphasis as soon as you get out of the tutorial should be, oh, I should explore a bit. I should kind of get some armor. I should get some of this. We'll talk about that more in a second. But I really think exploring should be the most important thing right when you get out of the tutorial. And honestly, one of the most important tips. For my second tip, I want to kind of build off that and say each town has its own quests, its own traders, and its own points of interest. I mean, you should really make an effort early to unlock each one, as it honestly makes traveling around the map way easier. And honestly, I mean, with how big the second map is that you go to after, like, I want to say after the first 30% of the game, the Kutenberg map is huge. And if you don't have those fast travel points, you're going to be doing a lot of riding on your horse, which, hey, I mean, the game's pretty and it looks cool, but at the end of the day, I mean, hey, your life's meant to be a little easier because we all don't have time to just travel for 30 minutes for every quest. From the third tip, I want to say, from the moment you leave the tutorial, make it a priority to get Mutt back. If you don't feel like doing the Game Master quest, simply go southwest of the Nomad camp until you run into the wolves. You'll know when you're running into the wolves because it'll pull you a cutscene and you'll see your dog kind of hanging out with some homies. And then all you have to do really to get him back is really find him. And then you just kill a couple wolves and you're good. For my fourth one, and this involves Mutt as a whole, I would say use him as a weapon. In the early game, he's extremely valuable when it comes to making the early game skirmishes easier to approach, especially when you have more than 2 or 3 enemies. And it can get really hectic when you have more than 2 or 3 enemies in the early game, as your armor really isn't up to par with fighting like to the same level as some of the bandits in this game, and some of the main characters, of course, whatever you're fighting. Number 5, don't forget to spend your skill points on Mutt. There's literally a whole skill tree dedicated to him and the horse, so of course, build him how you want to build him. Me personally, I made him super aggro, that he could take on the more dangerous enemies by himself. But if you want to build him to more be focused around hunting or tracking or other things like that, you can totally do that, and no one's going to judge you for it. For my 6th tip, on the same side of the map you find Mutt, one of the best early game trainers can be found in the Nomad camp. His name is Tomcat, and he is located on the eastern edge of the camp next to the fighting ring. He will teach you the basics of combat with a sword. Mainly, I think it's a sword. I don't know. I know people in this game kind of complain that any weapon but the sword is kind of meh. But he teaches you just the basics of comboing, which in this game is very important, as it's pretty much a very intricate game of chess. For my next tip, Tomcat will also teach you the Master Strike, an extremely powerful, game-changing ability that is reserved strictly for sword users, like I just said, because swords are honestly kind of the most, I want to say they're given the most love, and there's nothing wrong with that, because, I mean, I feel like, as far as the canon goes, I mean, your boy Henry is a sword wielder, so. But on the same note, the Master Strike for the sword is probably the most powerful ability in the game, and honestly, it can't hurt you to get it. All you have to do is beat Tomcat in a kind of a duel where, I mean, it's just a normal duel, so if you can master the combos a little bit and the defensive part, you should be fine. Then you'll have the Master Strikes, which will change your whole game plan. Number 8, we're going to switch away from the Tomcat part. We're going to say crime doesn't pay in this game unless you're extremely careful. I know that most people would say that a game like this, like such an expensive RPG, you definitely have the perks to be a sneaky little thing. But from what I've seen, if you get caught, and I know myself, maybe I'm just a terrible thief and a terrible murderer, but crime does not play in this game. I would highly recommend you don't do your sneaky, degenerate stuff in the daytime where people can see you, and mainly where people can see you. Your character will get hung. This isn't like other games. They don't play around. For number 9, this really ties into our first thing, or our first tip talking about reputation. Make sure to present yourself as the character you are trying to be. You can't be a knight in shining armor if you're constantly covered in blood and mud. Use troughs often and without hesitation to keep yourself clean, as well as the bathhouse located around the map. Number 10, inns and taverns are the easiest way for you to find a good place to sleep. You can rent them nightly or pay a little more and have them be semi-permanent homes with a chest where you can put your stuff in, and so on and so forth. You can also, of course, camp out in all the random camps out in the wilderness, but they don't give you as high of a quality of sleep, and that's kind of how the game balances between staying in a tavern and kind of just like, oh, I'm going to sleep out in the middle of the woods. The second point off of that is when you rent a room for one night, like I just said, you'll have an item access to a sword chest that transfers between the long-term rooms. Makes your life kind of easy. Number 12 is make sure you talk to the innkeepers, as they are the ones that give you the side quests in the immediate areas. These can be quests as simple as, I need you to go find this person, to things as complex as, I need you to solve this murder, and it leads you on like a 7-part side quest. There really is no, this game is very open with its side quest usage, and honestly, you have nothing to lose by at least accepting the quest to see if it's worth your time. Now, certain towns such as the Wagoneers Inn in Zelevov, which I'm sure I just butchered, have bathhouses that offer health as well as certain amenities for the lonely night, if you get my drift. Number 14, the starting region is full of bandit camps you can raid. Make sure you clear them all out for the easiest way to make a lot of money in a short amount of time, as well as access to the armor and stuff that these people drop. But here's the next tip, which will make your life easier. You don't have to attack them in broad daylight. There's no honor in dying. So clear bandit camps easily by killing everyone in your sleep. The best way I always found was you actually find the camp. You can always usually see them because there are torches in the distance. Wait till it's dark. There should only be 1 or 2 people guarding the entire camp. Everybody else is sleeping. And then there you go. You have nothing to worry about. You can strangle people in their sleep. You don't even need anything. But to add to my next point, to make your life easier to sort of get to the stealthy part of it, go make sure you have a dagger. These can be bought from any blacksmith in any town for a few bucks. Daggers will allow you to kill enemies unaware of your presence, and honestly, all you have to do is simply walk up and hold the left trigger, and it will just shove the knife right in their throats with no issue. In the early parts of the game, I will say, for my next tip, that killing every camp is a good source of XP, as well as money from the chests these camps always have. Most of the time, these bandits will have a key on them that unlocks the chest, so you don't even have to worry about wasting a lockpick. It's very useful in the early game to kind of build your bank a little bit, and you get all the armor and the weapons and stuff that each of these bandits drop. So that kind of ties into 18, which is make an effort to pick up weapons, armor, and really anything you can use off of the people you kill. And it's almost always worth it to make money. And honestly, it's the easiest way to improve your armor without spending thousands of Groschen just to have to purchase them from blacksmiths and the armor smiths. My next one is make an effort to level up your character as you want. Don't be scared to spend a skill point. The only ones that are hard to obtain are the main level skill points, which are mostly obtained from the big XP boosts you get from main quests. Of course, you can still get them just by leveling up, but a lot of the main quests give you a good chunk of XP. So, I mean, I found myself mostly getting my main point levels up from the main quest, but I mean, hey, everybody's different. Every other sub skill set is related to the specific things you do, such as sword fighting, archery, stealing, killing, murdering. Whatever you do and whatever you want to be good at, make sure you do it, as it's the best way to get that point up. Next thing I would like to add real quick on the topic of perks is make sure to focus on perks that give you more carrying capacity early. This makes looting enemies easier, and honestly, this means you can carry more while not over-encumbering yourself. If you are over-encumbered, you can't sprint, can't fast travel, and you can't get on a horse. It's not a good time. Honestly, as someone like me, who picks up everything they can just to make as much money as possible, I found it really beneficial to pick it up early so you can carry 200, 250, 300 pounds worth of stuff. On the topic of looting the dead, you can pick up their stuff. Make sure, when you pick up their stuff, make sure you compare it with whatever you're wearing. The simplest way I've done this is by hovering over the new piece of armor you had. You should see the numbers under your character's picture. Blue means better, red means worse. If it's red, either pocket it or sell it to get rid of it. And honestly, my own playthrough, it honestly depended how heavy or light I was. I usually only picked up things that showed a value above 700-800, which is the far right in your inventory tab. Before I tie this into your horse, let's get one thing out of the way. Do not buy a horse. Don't do it. You'll get your horse super early in the main quest line. Again, do not buy a horse like Mutt. Or do not buy a horse like Mutt. You can get your horse back from pretty much some of the main quests, and you don't have to put much effort into it. She's kind of just given to you. And honestly, the horses in this game are expensive, so I mean, at least in the beginning, it makes sense to at least take all the free stuff you can. So now that you have your horse, you can, I would say it's important to make sure that you know it's used for more than just travel. Your horse is also a great place to store extra things that are too heavy for you to carry, as in my case, I mostly just stick junk in there and forget about it. But say you're clearing a bunch of bandit camps and end up with 4 sets of armor that you don't want to have and you don't want to carry and you don't want to leave, the horse's storage can save the day. Just make sure you empty it out. Don't be like me and store a bunch of junk. All you have to do is stand next to your horse, and then you'll see the horse's inventory tab when you go to your own inventory. On the topic of making money, there are plenty of ways to do so without murdering your enemies. I will say the most lucrative and studied way to make it, though, is the hobbies you do. The three that you have access to is blacksmithing, alchemy, and hunting, also known as poaching, in the king's eyes. Alchemy can be practiced using a variety of alchemy stations around the world, while blacksmithing can be done at any blacksmith station. Both require little as far as starting, and you can make a lot of money at a consistent rate. Poaching, on the other hand, well, in simplest terms, gets you hemmed up with the law, as every enemy besides the hares are technically property of the crown. But hey, I mean, who's going to stop you, right? Just don't do it in front of guards, you'll be fine. So, one of the last things I want to cover, because we're up to 29 now, this is 29, is the idea of the conversation system and how easy it is to really get what you want without any sort of bloodshed. The pen is indeed mightier than the sword in this game, as charisma and kind of how you present yourself is more important than anything, I would go as far as to say. More often than not, especially once I hit kind of that point where my charisma was decent and I was able to buy stuff that makes me look somewhat not like a serial killer, you can get out of most hairy situations, especially with guards, once your charisma is up. So, for the 30th tip, which is building off the last one, leveling up your charisma on both sides can make conversations go easier. What I mean by both sides, of course, is you can choose to be a smooth-tongued knight that can get your way through with sheer charm and kind of like using your intelligence to get out of it, or you can be a hulking monster who is kind of built to be feared. And there's two options in mostly every dialogue tree that show like the peaceful option, kind of the smooth talk option, and there's like the intimidation option. I mean, choose the path you want in the skill tree to make sure your armor and general reputation fill whatever you want to be is really the important point. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of charisma perks that kind of tell you like, oh, this makes you more scary, or oh, this makes you more smooth tongue. Pick your character how you want to be made. And for my last tip, and I really think this ties into everything, it's be the knight you want to be. If you want to save damsels in distress and be the knight in shining armor, by all means. But life isn't always fun when you're kind. So, hey, I mean, dip your toes in the dark side every once in a while. There's always fun to be had. And of course, this is actually my last one. Don't forget, you can save skim, or scum. I've heard both. I'm going to say skim because that's what the internet says. Save skim every situation. If you're about to do something stupid, click start or whatever you're on. If you're on PC, click whatever. Go save and exit, and then load back in and do whatever dumb stuff you want to do. And at the end of the day, oh, I messed up. You can just load the save and everything's back to normal. This video is a little longer than my usual vid, so if you're still here, thanks for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this video and subscribe for more content.